CRM was supposed to improve customer relationships. Instead, it's shorthand for can't resolve much. Which means you may have sunk a fortune into software that just bounces customer issues around but never actually solves them. On the ServiceNow AI platform, CRM stands for something better. With AI built into one platform, customers aren't mired in endless loops of automated indifference. They get what they need, when they need it. Bad CRM was then. This is ServiceNow.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, your team's home base. Collaborate within a shared PDF space. You've got your docs, your plans, your specs, and then invite the crew to build what's next. They talk up the teamwork. Here's an updated render. They think that this design could be a contender. And when somebody wonders what's the next step, AI helps you finish the rest. Bolts are tight, now your plan's refined. Run a smoother business when you're all aligned. Do that with Acrobat. Learn more at adobe.com/do-that-with-Acrobat.
Today, Alton Towers is known across the world for its roller coasters, theme park attractions, and vast landscaped gardens. Each year, millions of visitors pass through its gates, seeking excitement and spectacle. Yet few realise that beneath the thrill rides lies the ghost of one of Britain's most extraordinary aristocratic houses.
Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Long before steel tracks cut through the landscape and crowds queued for rides, this hilltop overlooking the Churnet Valley was the seat of the powerful Earls of Shrewsbury. What remains today, the dramatic Gothic ruins rising above the gardens, are only fragments of a building that was once among the most ambitious country houses ever created in Britain. The story of Alton Towers begins not with a castle, but with a lodge. By the late 17th century, a residence already stood at Alton. In 1686, the Staffordshire historian, Dr. Robert Plott, mentioned a lodge on the site of his Natural History of Staffordshire. Known as Alton Lodge, the house served as a secondary residence for the Talbot family, Earls of Shrewsbury, whose ancestral roots in the region stretched back centuries through the medieval Verdon and Furnivall families. The lodge itself appears to have been a relatively restrained classical building, typical of the late 17th century. It stood 2 or 3 stories high and included a distinctive circular tower, likely a surviving element from an earlier structure on the site. That tower, absorbed into later rebuilding, would remain part of the complex through every transformation that followed. At this stage, the house functioned primarily as a country retreat rather than a principal residence. Even the internal layout reflected this practical arrangement. One wing housed the Talbot family when they visited, while another served the estate steward who managed the surrounding lands. Everything about Alton was about to change. The transformation began under Charles Talbot, the 15th Earl of Shrewsbury, who inherited the title in the 18th century and became increasingly fascinated by the secluded Staffordshire estate. Around 1811, he began rebuilding the modest lodge into something far more ambitious. What started as a relatively modest extension soon grew into a project of extraordinary scale. The Earl became deeply involved in the design of the house, often altering plans, expanding structures, and commissioning new ideas as quickly as they could be drawn. This constant revision meant that construction at Alton continued almost without pause for decades. The first major phase focused not on the house itself, but on the landscape that surrounded it. A valley east of the house was transformed into elaborate gardens and terraces. Designers and architects, including Thomas Allison and Robert Abraham, helped shape the grounds into a dramatic, romantic landscape of pathways, viewpoints, ornamental buildings, and carefully framed vistas across the Churnet Valley. Visitors of the period regarded the gardens as among the most spectacular landscaped estates in Britain. By 1812, the expanding house had adopted a new name, Alton Abbey. The title reflected the growing influence of the Gothic revival movement that was sweeping Britain in the early 19th century. Although the building was never a religious institution, its architectural style drew heavily from medieval abbeys and castles, creating a dramatic silhouette of towers, battlements, and irregular facades. The Earl's enthusiasm for Gothic architecture was partly ascetic and partly personal. As a Roman Catholic, in an era when Catholic aristocrats were still emerging from centuries of political restriction, the medieval style carried powerful historical symbolism. Several architects contributed to the evolving design, including Thomas Hopper and Thomas Allison. Their work transformed the former lodge into a sprawling romantic mansion, filled with galleries, towers, terraces, and dramatic interior spaces. Yet the most significant transformation was still to come. When Charles Talbot died in 1827, the estate passed to his nephew, John Talbot, the 16th Earl of Shrewsbury. Under his ownership, Alton entered its most ambitious period of construction. Throughout the 1830s and 1840s, the house expanded dramatically. New floors were added, galleries lengthened, and entire sections of the building rebuilt in richer Gothic forms. During this period, the name Alton Towers gradually replaced the earlier Alton Abbey, reflecting the increasingly medieval character of the architecture. In 1837, the Earl brought in one of the most influential architects of the Gothic revival, Augustus Northmore Pugin. Pugin believed that Gothic architecture represented the only true Christian architectural style. At Alton Towers, he found a patron who shared his passion for medieval design and was willing to fund ambitious architectural ideas. The interiors Pugin helped create were extraordinary. Rooms filled with intricate wood carvings, stained glass, heraldic decoration, and vaulted ceilings. Rich colour schemes and custom furniture reinforced the medieval atmosphere throughout the house. At the centre of the building lay the octagon, a dramatic hub from which several of the grandest spaces extended. Visitors could pass through a carefully arranged sequence of rooms, including the Talbot Gallery, Picture Gallery, and Armoury. This route created one of the most striking architectural vistas in Britain, a continuous line of rooms stretching for nearly 500 feet through the heart of the house. Alton Towers had reached its peak. Tragically, both Pugin and the 16th Earl died in 1852, only months apart. With their deaths, the creative force behind the house disappeared almost overnight. Without their patron, the future of the towers quickly became uncertain. In 1857, the contents of the house were sold in a vast auction lasting several weeks. Almost 4,000 lots were dispersed, including paintings, furniture, armour and decorative objects collected over generations of Talbot ownership. The sale effectively stripped the house of much of its artistic and historical richness. Although the Talbot family retained ownership of the estate, the great days of Alton Towers as a lavish aristocratic residence were over. During the later 19th century, the estate increasingly opened its gardens to the public. Large fetes, garden parties, and public entertainments attracted thousands of visitors. In 1907, King Edward VII visited the gardens during a tour of the region, highlighting the estate's continued cultural importance. Yet behind the scenes of the house itself was beginning to deteriorate. Following the separation of the Earl and Countess in the 1890s, enthusiasm for maintaining the immense building faded. By the early 20th century, parts of the house were rarely used. The outbreak of Second World War brought another dramatic change. The estate was requisitioned for military use, and the once grand rooms were adapted for wartime purposes. Although the building survived the war structurally intact, its condition deteriorated rapidly afterwards. In the early 1950s, the future of Alton Towers changed forever. Lead roofing and valuable interior materials were removed and sold, leaving the structure exposed to the elements. Without its protective roof, the great Gothic mansion quickly fell into ruin. Walls remained standing, but the interiors collapsed and weather damage accelerated. Within only a few years, one of Britain's most remarkable country houses had become an empty shell. Yet the story of Alton Towers was far from over. During the 1950s and 1960s, the gardens began attracting visitors once again. Tea rooms opened within surviving parts of the building, and small attractions appeared across the estate. The transformation accelerated in the 1970s when businessman John Broome acquired control of the site. Recognising the potential of the landscape and its dramatic ruins, he began developing the estate into a major leisure attraction. New themed areas appeared, followed by increasingly ambitious rides. When the Corkscrew roller coaster opened in 1980, it marked the beginning of a new era. The stately home of the Earls of Shrewsbury had become the centrepiece of one of Britain's most famous theme parks. Yet even as roller coasters rose around it, the ruined towers remained, silent witnesses to the centuries that came before, and many believe those centuries have left more than memories behind. If you're enjoying these stories and you'd like to help support what I do, I've set up a Buy Me a Coffee page. Anything you contribute helps me improve the equipment, spend more time researching, and keep making these episodes. Just head over to buymeacoffee.com/ghost tales. It's quick, easy, and really makes a difference. I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's already donated or supported the channel so far. It genuinely means a lot and really helps keep this going. If you do want to support the channel, you can find the link in the description. It's quick, easy, and makes a real difference. And of course, if you enjoy these episodes, please share them around. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps me bring you even more ghost stories. To most visitors, Alton Towers is a place of excitement and colour. Music drifts across the themed areas, roller coasters roar overhead, and laughter echoes through the gardens. Yet when the crowds leave and the park falls quiet, the atmosphere changes. Beyond the rides and bright attractions stand the ruins of the original mansion, a dark Gothic structure whose history stretches back more than 200 years. For staff, investigators, and occasional late-night visitors, this part of the estate has earned a reputation as one of the most unsettling locations in the park. Over time, a collection of legends, sightings, and unexplained experiences have grown around the towers. Long before the mansion was built, the high ground above the Churnet Valley was already associated with ancient activity. Archaeological discoveries across the surrounding area suggest settlement dating back to the Iron Age. Local tradition also connects the site with early Mercian history. One story claims that land in the area once belonged to King Ceolred of Mercia, who ruled briefly in the early 8th century. Later chronicles describe him as unstable or troubled, and folklore sometimes links his name with the darker legends surrounding the valley. Whether these traditions are historically accurate or not, they add to the sense that the landscape itself carries deep layers of history. The most famous story connected to Alton Towers is the legend of the Chained Oak. According to the tale, an Earl of Shrewsbury once encountered an elderly woman on the road near the estate. The woman, described in some versions as a beggar and in others as a Romany fortune teller, asked the Earl for charity. When he refused, she pronounced a curse upon his family. For every branch that fell from a nearby oak tree, she warned, a member of the Talbot family would die. That night, a violent storm struck the estate, and a branch broke from the oak. Soon afterwards, according to the legend, a member of the family died unexpectedly. Fearing the curse might continue, the Earl ordered the branches of the tree to be secured with heavy iron chains to prevent them from falling. The oak still stands today on land close to the estate, its limbs wrapped in iron chains, as have become one of the most famous legends in British folklore. The story later inspired the theme park attraction Hex, which draws directly on the myth of the cursed tree. The ruins of the old mansion are often regarded as the most active area for unexplained phenomena. Visitors exploring the building during open hours have occasionally reported seeing figures in period clothing moving through corridors or standing silently within the shadows of the galleries. When approached, these figures reportedly vanish. Some staff members working late shifts have described the atmosphere inside the ruins as intensely oppressive after dark. Footsteps have been heard in empty rooms. Doors have been known to move unexpectedly, and objects occasionally appear displaced between closing and opening. Whether these incidents have ordinary explanations or not, they have helped fuel the reputation of the towers as a haunted location. Among the most persistent legends is the story of a young noblewoman said to haunt the grounds near the water surrounding the mansion. According to the tale, she fell in love with a man considered unsuitable by her family. When the relationship was discovered, she was confined to one of the towers to prevent the couple from meeting. Determined to escape, she attempted to climb from a high window during the night. In doing so, she lost her footing and fell into the water below, where she drowned. Some visitors claim to have seen a woman dressed in dark riding clothes walking near the moat before suddenly disappearing into the shadows. In certain versions of the story, she is accompanied by the ghost of a black horse. No historical record confirms the story, but the legend has become firmly attached to the estate. Inside the ruins, particularly in areas once used as grand reception rooms, investigators and staff have occasionally reported unusual experiences. Heavy footsteps have been heard in otherwise empty sections of the building. Shadowy figures have been glimpsed at the edges of torchlight during night investigations. Some paranormal investigators have claimed to sense a powerful presence in the former banqueting rooms. In 2007, the television program Most Haunted conducted an overnight investigation inside the towers, reporting unexplained noises and objects moving during filming. As with many televised paranormal investigations, skeptics have suggested more ordinary explanations for some of the events witnessed that night. Whether the stories surrounding Alton Towers are the product of folklore, imagination, misinterpretation, or something more mysterious, they form part of the strange identity of the place. The ruins of the Great House still dominate the estate, their empty windows watching over the gardens and rides that surround them. Beneath the roller coasters and laughter lies a landscape shaped by centuries of ambition, tragedy and transformation. And for those who walk the paths after dark, it can sometimes feel as though the past has never entirely left.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. Stop waiting around for the perfect candidate. Instead, use Indeed sponsored jobs to find the right people with the right skills fast. It's a simple way to make sure your listing is the first candidates see. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs have 4 times more applicants than non-sponsored jobs. So go build your dream team today with Indeed. Get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.